In the previous exercise, we turned on the reaction block in the autoclave, and we will now add the reactions shown here using the reaction editor. And the sulfuric acid is in the aqueous form. So I'll go now to the reaction editor. And you'll remember we came to this editor when we said edit RCT in the previous exercise. So if we look at the reaction editor, in the left-hand window, all of the reactions that are currently in your project will be displayed in this window. And at the moment, we only have one, the autoclave.rct. In the right-hand window, it's a list of all the species in the project. And these are displayed in the order in which they are shown in the project. So see here, we've got vapors, liquids, and solids. So if I move down, we get the whole list of the species there displayed. So to add a reaction, if we click on the button in the middle here, Add Reaction, my windows will change, and I've now got a left-hand side of the reaction where I can put the reactants. Then I've got the equals, and then I've got my right-hand side where I can put my products. Now to add any species to these boxes, we can drag them across from the right-hand side, from the list of species. So the first one we're looking for is our nickel oxide, which is a solid. So if I go down into the solids group, I can find the nickel oxide here in the list. The other thing we could do is we could turn on the filter here at the bottom. So if I turn on the filter and I said, only show me all species that contain nickel in I, and this is case sensitive, then you'll see that makes the list far shorter, and it's easier for me to find species that I'm looking for. So if I click on nickel oxide, and hold down my left mouse button, and I drag it across into the reactants and release, and that'll put it there. So nickel oxide on the left, and I want nickel sulfate on the right. So if I click on my nickel sulfate and drag it into the right-hand side. And now I require sulfuric acid. So I can change my filter now and change it to only show me species that contain H2. And there you can see I've got sulfuric acid aqueous, and I definitely want the aqueous form, not the liquid form. So I click on that, drag that across into the reactants. And I want water in my right-hand side. So I want the water liquid. Drag it on there. And now that's the reaction, my first reaction. If I click on the balance button, my auto balancer shows me that this reaction is balanced and it hasn't had to make any changes. So I can just click on the OK button. The extent type that I want to use for this reaction is fraction, so I can leave that, I don't have to change that. The species, nickel oxide, by default SysCAD will take the first species in your reactors, but if you click on the arrow, you can change that species. So I could use nickel oxide or sulfuric acid. So just make sure that you're using the right species there, which is nickel oxide in this case. And the extent that we want is 0.95. We can put this value in here, but we can also change it from the access window. The other thing is our heat of reaction. If this is not ticked, then SysCAD will calculate the heat of reaction based on your heat of formation and your specific heat in your species database. If I click on the heat of reaction override, which I'll just do to show you, if I click on that, then you yourself can actually type in the heat of reaction for this reaction in kilojoules per mole or kilojoules per kilogram. But in our case, we want SysCAD to calculate that heat of reaction based on the data in the species database. The enabled means that that reaction is turned on. We could also turn it off here. The status is okay, so it's all balanced and there's no problems with that reaction.